I never expected to find my mother's diary hidden in the attic on my 24th birthday. The leather-bound book practically fell into my lap while I was searching for old photo albums, its pages yellowed and crinkled with age. My hands trembled as I opened it, recognizing her elegant handwriting immediately. My name is Alara, and until today I thought I knew everything about my parents' death. The car accident that took them when I was 4 left me with only fragments of memories. My mother's perfume, my father's laugh, and the warmth of their hugs. My grandmother Marjorie raised me in their sprawling Victorian house, keeping their memory alive through stories and photographs. But this diary, this changed everything. Darling, I heard my grandmother call from downstairs. Finn will be here soon for your birthday dinner. Just a minute, called back, my voice cracking. My eyes were glued to a particular entry dated just weeks before their death. The board meeting today confirmed our worst fears. Someone has been embezzling funds and the trail leads straight to them. Robert insists we gather more evidence before going to the authorities. I fear what might happen if they discover we know. My throat went dry. The next few entries detailed their investigation, their growing paranoia, and finally their decision to document everything in a safety deposit box. The last entry was dated the day before their accident. If anything happens to us, everything is arranged. Alara will inherit when she turns 25, but she must be careful. Trust no one until... The rest of the page was torn out. I heard the doorbell ring downstairs, followed by Finn's familiar voice greeting my grandmother. My boyfriend of 8 months, Finn Matthews, came from a modest background and worked at a local architecture firm. His mother, Veronica, had made it clear she thought I was too privileged for her son, despite not knowing about my upcoming inheritance. Alara, Finn called up the stairs. You okay up there? I quickly tucked the diary into my sweater. Coming! My mind raced as I descended the stairs. My parents' death wasn't an accident. Someone had killed them, and that someone might still be out there, watching, waiting. The question was, who could I trust with this information? Finn greeted me with a warm hug and a kiss, but I barely felt it. Over his shoulder, I caught my grandmother's knowing look. Had she known about this all along? Everything all right, dear? She asked, her eyes flickering to where the diary was hidden under my sweater. Perfect, I lied, forcing a smile. Just found some old memories, that's all. As we moved toward the dining room, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Happy birthday, Alara! Your parents would be so proud. Be careful who you tell about your discovery. Not everyone is who they seem. I stared at the message until the screen went dark, my heart pounding. Someone knew I'd found the diary. Someone was watching. The Matthews family dinner was exactly as tense as I'd expected. Veronica's pristine suburban home felt like a stage set, with everyone playing their assigned roles. The mysterious text from earlier still burned in my mind as I sat at their dining table, the diary safely hidden in my car. So, Alara, Veronica said, precisely cutting her chicken, how's that little boutique of yours doing? Still making ends meet? I forced a smile. The vintage clothing store is doing well, actually. We just expanded our online presence. Oh, how quaint. She turned to Finn. You know, Sandra's daughter just made partner at her law firm. She's only 28. Finn's sister Sloane snorted into her wine glass. Mother, subtle as always. I'm just saying, Veronica continued. Some people have real ambition. Finn's hand found mine under the table. Mom, we've talked about this. Alara built that business from scratch. With her trust fund, Sloane muttered. The room went quiet. I felt my cheeks burn, thinking about the diary and what it revealed about my family's true wealth. They only knew. Actually, I said, setting down my fork, I started it with a small business loan. I haven't touched my trust fund. Veronica's eyebrows rose. There's a trust fund? Mother, Finn warned. My phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Careful what you reveal. Some secrets are better left buried. Like your parents were. I must have paled because Finn leaned closer. Everything okay? Just work, I lied, pocketing the phone. The weight of my mother's diary in my car felt heavier by the minute. Speaking of work, Veronica brightened. Finn, tell Alara about that promotion you're up for in Seattle. I turned to him. Seattle? Finn shot his mother a look that could freeze hell. It's just an opportunity I'm considering. Nothing definite. Oh. My voice sounded small. When were you going to tell me? I was waiting for the right time, he said, but wouldn't meet my eyes. Sloane jumped in. It's a fantastic opportunity. Away from distractions. The implication hung in the air like smoke. I excused myself to use the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe. In the hallway, I overheard Veronica's voice from the kitchen. She'll only hold you back, Finn. You need to think about your future. My future includes Alara, Finn responded, but his voice wavered. Does it? Do you really want to spend your life with someone who's been handed everything? Someone hiding things from you? I pressed my back against the wall, heart pounding. How could she know? What are you talking about? Finn asked. I've done some digging, Veronica said. There's more to her family's story than she's telling. The accident that killed her parents? There are some interesting details in the police report. I didn't wait to hear more. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door, mumbling excuses about a work emergency. As I drove home, my phone buzzed one final time. Smart girl. But running won't save you from the truth. Ask your grandmother about December 15th. December 15th. The day before my parents died. I found my grandmother in her garden at dawn, pruning roses like she didn't have a care in the world. The morning dew hadn't dried yet, but I'd been up all night, reading and rereading my mother's diary until the words blurred together. December 15th, I said, watching her hands freeze mid-cut. What happened that day, Grandma? She set down her shears carefully. I wondered when you'd ask about that. So you knew? About everything? Alara, there are things. She was interrupted by my phone ringing. Finn's name flashed on the screen. Not now, I muttered, declining the call. He'd left 6 messages since I'd rushed out of his family dinner. You should talk to him, Grandma said, but I shook my head. First, you're going to tell me why you never mentioned the embezzlement investigation. Why you let me believe it was just an accident. Her face aged 10 years in seconds. Because knowing the truth wouldn't bring them back. It would only put you in danger. Like those texts are doing now? Her head snapped up. What texts? I showed her my phone, watching her face pale as she read the messages. Someone knows I found the diary. Someone who knows what really happened to my parents. We need to call Detective Morrison, the one who investigated their deaths. He never believed it was an accident. But without proof, she stopped as my phone buzzed again. Meet me at Riverside Park. Alone. Or I send these photos to Finn's mother. She'd love to know what really happened to your parents' business partner. Attached was a photo of a man I recognized from old family pictures, James Crawford, my father's former partner. He disappeared shortly after my parents' death. I have to go, I said, already backing away. Alara, wait. My grandmother called, but I was already in my car. The park, I found Veronica Matthews sitting on a bench, looking perfectly composed in her designer suit. Surprised? She asked, smiling like a cat with cream. You shouldn't be. James Crawford was my brother. The world tilted sideways. What? Your parents accused him of embezzlement, threatened to expose him. Then they had their accident, and James vanished with millions. Her smile turned bitter. He was supposed to share it with his family. Instead, he abandoned us with nothing but debts and shame. So, the texts. You've been trying to scare me away from Finn? I needed to know if you were like them. Self-righteous, privileged people who destroy families without a thought. She stood. But you're worse. You're hiding the truth from my son just like your parents hid their accusations until it was too late. My phone buzzed again, Finn. This time, I answered. Where are you? He demanded. Mom's missing, and Sloane found some strange documents in her office about your parents. I stared at Veronica, who hadn't moved. I'm with your mother. And I think it's time everyone knew the truth. Don't, Veronica warned, but I was done being scared. Riverside Park, I told Finn. Bring those documents. And Finn? I'm sorry I didn't tell you everything sooner. As I hung up, Veronica's face hardened. You're making a mistake. No, I said, finally understanding. The mistake was letting fear keep us all silent for 20 years. The documents Finn brought to Riverside Park changed everything. We spread them across a picnic table while Veronica watched, her composure finally cracking. 20-year-old bank statements, emails between James Crawford and my father, and a half-burned letter that made my hands shake. Your brother wasn't just embezzling money, I said to Veronica, piecing it together. He was selling company secrets to competitors. You don't understand, Veronica whispered. James was desperate. Your father's perfect moral code would have destroyed everything. Finn stood between us, his face unreadable. Mom, these dates. You were working at their company back then. The silence that followed was deafening. I was James's assistant, she admitted. I helped him access the files. My phone buzzed. A new text. Ask her about the brake lines. I showed it to Veronica, watching the color drain from her face. Who's sending these? I demanded. Sloane, she breathed. She found my old journals last week. She knows everything. Finn's sister emerged from behind a nearby tree, holding up her phone. Including the maintenance records from your parents' car, Alara. Guess who signed off on their last service? That's enough, my grandmother's voice cut through the tension. She appeared with Detective Morrison beside her, both looking grim. Actually, the detective said, it's just the beginning. Mrs. Matthews, we've reopened the investigation into the Whitman deaths. Veronica's shoulders slumped. I only checked the records for James. I didn't know he would. I never wanted. But you kept quiet, Finn said, his voice breaking. For 20 years, you knew what happened to Alara's parents. I watched my relationship crumbling in real time, destroyed by decades-old secrets and misplaced loyalty. The worst part? I understood. Family loyalty was what had kept my grandmother quiet too. There's more, Sloane said, softer now. Mom, tell them about the money. Veronica closed her eyes. James did share the money. I've been holding it in trust. For you, Finn. For your future. The revelation hit like a physical blow. The money that should have been part of my inheritance, meant to fund the community projects my parents had dreamed of, had been funding Finn's education, his opportunities, his whole life. I can't. Finn stepped back from both his mother and me. I need time to process this. Detective Morrison cleared his throat. I'm afraid time isn't something we have. Mrs. Matthews, we'll need you to come with us. As they led Veronica away, Finn wouldn't meet my eyes. I should go with her. Finn, wait. Don't. He turned to me, eyes haunted. Were you ever going to tell me about your inheritance? About any of it? The irony wasn't lost on me, both of us keeping secrets about money we shouldn't have had. I only found out 3 days ago, I said. I was trying to protect. Everyone's always trying to protect someone, he cut in. Maybe that's the problem. He walked away, following his mother and sister. My grandmother put her arm around me as I watched him go, and I finally understood why she'd kept her secrets for so long. Sometimes the truth doesn't set you free, it just shows you how trapped you really are. 3 days after Veronica's arrest, I found myself at the annual Whitman Foundation charity gala. surrounded by the city's elite who had no idea their world was about to implode. Detective Morrison had warned me to keep quiet about the investigation, but Sloane had other plans. She cornered me by the champagne fountain, looking dangerous in a red dress. "I'm going public with everything tonight." "Sloane, please. Save it." She gestured around the ballroom. All these people, thinking they're so noble with their charitable donations. They should know they're celebrating with stolen money. My grandmother appeared beside us, her smile razor-sharp. "Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere private." "Nothing's private anymore," Sloane announced, loud enough to turn heads. "Right, Alara? Tell them about the real legacy of Whitman Industries." I spotted Finn across the room watching us. He hadn't returned my calls since his mother's arrest, but here he was, wearing the suit I'd helped him pick out months ago. "Your mother chose to protect James," I told Sloane. "That's not my fault." "No, but this charity, these projects, they're built on my family's sacrifice." "Sacrifice?" My voice rose despite myself. "Your uncle murdered my parents." The music screeched to a halt. Dozens of faces turned toward us, hungry for scandal. Finn started making his way through the crowd. "Ladies," my grandmother warned, but it was too late. Sloane pulled out her phone. Time everyone knew the truth. About the embezzlement, the murders, and how the perfect Whitman family covered it all up. "We didn't," I started, but she cut me off. "Really? Then explain this." She held up her phone, playing a video of my grandmother talking to James Crawford. The timestamp showed 2 days after my parents' death. "You can never come back," my grandmother said in the video. "Take the money and disappear. For all our sakes." The room spun. I turned to my grandmother, who looked like she'd seen a ghost. "You helped him escape?" "I had to protect you," she whispered. "James threatened to hurt you next." Finn finally reached us, his face ashen. "There's more." "Sloane, show her the rest." "What rest?" Sloane's hand shook as she played another clip. This time it showed my father arguing with James, and Finn's father, who died years ago. "They were all involved," Finn said quietly. "Our fathers, your grandmother, my mother. They all knew what was happening." The weight of 20 years of lies crashed down around me. Every charitable donation, every scholarship, every good deed, all tainted by blood money and betrayal. "I'm done," I announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. No more secrets, no more protection, no more lies. I turned to Detective Morrison, who stood near the entrance. "I want to make a full statement about everything." "Alara, don't," my grandmother pleaded. "Why not? Isn't this what my parents would have wanted?" "The truth. The truth." Sloane laughed bitterly. "The truth is, none of us are innocent. Not them, not you, not even your precious parents." She held up one final piece of evidence, a letter in my mother's handwriting dated the day she died. As I read the first line, I realized everything I thought I knew about my family's legacy was about to change forever. My mother's letter changed everything. I read it in the precinct's interview room, with Detective Morrison and Finn watching from opposite sides of the table. Paper trembled in my hands. "My dearest Alara, if you're reading this, then the worst has happened. What you need to know is that your father and I weren't just investigating embezzlement. We discovered something far worse. James Crawford and Richard Matthews weren't just stealing money, they were using Whitman Industries to launder funds for a criminal organization. Your father and I gathered evidence, but we underestimated how far they would go to keep their secret." "Stop reading," Finn said quietly. "Please." I couldn't. "The night before we died, we transferred everything we knew to a secure server. The access codes are hidden in." The door burst open. Sloane rushed in, face pale. "They've got Grandma Marjorie." My heart stopped. "What?" 2 men grabbed her outside the precinct. "They left this." She handed me a phone with a text message. "The codes for her life." 1 hour. Detective Morrison immediately started barking orders, but I could barely hear him over the rushing in my ears. My grandmother, the only parent I had left taken because of secrets I'd helped uncover. "I know where the codes are," I said, standing. "They're in my mother's music box." "No," Finn grabbed my arm. "This is exactly what they want. You can't. She raised me." I yanked away from him. "While your father was helping destroy my family, she was there every single day." His face hardened. "My father made mistakes, but he died trying to make things right." That's what the argument in the video was about. He was going to confess everything. And now my grandmother might die too. I turned to Detective Morrison. "I'm getting those codes." "You'll be walking into a trap," Sloane said, surprising me by showing concern. "Probably." I checked my watch. 53 minutes left. "Are you helping or not?" Finn stepped forward. "I'm coming with you." "Why?" "So you can protect your family's secrets again?" "So I can protect you." His voice cracked. "Everything else, the money, the lies, our parents' choices, none of that matters if you're dead too." The room fell silent. In that moment, I saw the toll this had taken on him too, the dark circles under his eyes, the way his hands shook slightly. "The codes won't just implicate James and your father," I said softly. "They'll destroy both our families' legacies." "I know." He met my eyes. "But maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe we need to burn it all down to build something true." My phone buzzed, another message. 48 minutes. Tick-tock. I looked around the room, at Detective Morrison's grim determination, Sloane's conflicted face, and Finn's unwavering gaze. Everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and justice had been shattered. Now I had to decide. Try to save what was left of our family's reputations, or risk everything, including my grandmother's life, to expose the truth. "Let's go," I said, heading for the door. "But understand this, if anything happens to my grandmother, I'm taking everyone down, including us." The music box sat on my mother's old desk, exactly where I'd left it all those years ago. 20 minutes remained on the countdown clock. Finn and Sloane watched as I turned the tiny silver key. Instead of music, a mechanical were revealed a hidden compartment. Inside lay a single USB drive. "That's what they killed them for?" Sloane whispered. My phone rang, unknown number. I answered on speaker. "Very good," a familiar voice said. "Now bring it to the old Whitman Industries warehouse." "Alone." "Uncle James," Sloane breathed. I gripped the phone tighter. "Let me talk to my grandmother." "Ilara." Grandma Marjorie's voice shook. "Don't give them anything. They'll just," her voice cut off with a muffled cry. 15 minutes, James Crawford said. "Don't make me repeat your parents' mistake." The line went dead. Finn grabbed my arm as I headed for the door. "Wait. Something's wrong." "Why would he reveal himself now?" "Because he's desperate," I said, but Sloane was already shaking her head. "No, Finn's right. Mom said James disappeared with millions. Why risk everything for this?" The answer hit me like lightning. "Because the money's gone. The criminal organization they were laundering for, they must want proof of what happened to their funds. And James needs the evidence destroyed before they come for him," Finn finished. I checked the time. 12 minutes. "It doesn't matter. I have to go." "We're coming with you." "No." I faced them both. "Your mother's in custody because she protected James. I won't let anyone else I care about get hurt because of him." Finn stepped closer. "That's not your decision to make." "Not anymore." The warehouse loomed dark and abandoned when I arrived. James Crawford emerged from the shadows, looking nothing like the successful businessman in my childhood memories. His expensive suit hung loose, his eyes wild. "The drive," he demanded. "My grandmother first." He gestured, and two men brought her forward. She looked unharmed but terrified. Now you understand, James said, why I had to do it. Your parents were going to ruin everything. Just like you're trying to do. They were trying to stop you from destroying lives. They were self-righteous fools who, a gunshot cut him off. One of his men crumpled. Detective Morrison's voice boomed through a megaphone. Police! Nobody move. Everything happened at once. James lunged for me. Finn appeared from nowhere, tackling him. Sloane rushed to free our grandmother. More shots rang out. The drive! James screamed, grappling with Finn. Give it to me. I held it up, my other hand on my mother's letter in my pocket. You want it? Here. I snapped the drive in half. James howled in rage, but I wasn't finished. I pulled out my phone, showing the screen. But the data? I already uploaded it. To everyone. Police, the FBI, the media. It's all out there now. You've killed us all, he whispered. No, my grandmother said, standing straight despite everything. You did that 20 years ago. Alara just finally set us free. As the police moved in, Finn took my hand. Around us, 2 decades of secrets and lies crumbled like the warehouse's old walls. It wasn't the ending anyone had expected, but maybe that's what justice really looks like. Not revenge, but the truth finally seeing light. 6 months after James Crawford's arrest, I stood in front of the newly renamed Whitman Matthews Community Center. The morning sun caught the bronze plaque, dedicated to those who chose truth over silence. Finn approached, hands in his pockets. We hadn't spoken much since the warehouse, both needing time to process everything. His mother was serving community service instead of jail time, thanks to her eventual cooperation with the investigation. Nice turnout, he said, nodding toward the gathering crowd. Your sister did most of the organizing. I smiled, watching Sloane direct volunteers with her usual intensity. She's really thrown herself into the rehabilitation programs. Turns out she's good at helping people rebuild. He paused. Like someone else I know. The inheritance my parents left had funded this place, along with education programs for families affected by white-collar crime. Not exactly what either of our families had planned, but somehow fitting. My grandmother joined us, looking stronger than she had in months. They would be proud of this, she said, touching the plaque. All of them. Even those who lost their way. I found something else in the music box, I said, pulling out a worn envelope. It was hidden under the mechanism. I've been waiting for the right time. Inside was a photo of our parents, all of them, at a company picnic 20 years ago. They looked happy, unburdened. On the back, my mother had written, "Sometimes the hardest path is the one that leads home." Finn's hand found mine. We can't change what they did. No, I agreed. But we can choose what we do now. Sloane called us over for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. As we walked, Finn held back slightly. I'm taking that job in Seattle, he said quietly. My heart stuttered, but I nodded. I know. The firm called for a reference. It's just for a year. The distance. Maybe it's what we need. To figure out who we are without all this between us. And after... He smiled, that same smile that had first made me fall for him. After, we start fresh. No secrets, no inheritance, no family legacies. Just us. Crowd gathered as my grandmother prepared to cut the ribbon. I saw faces marked by both loss and hope, families torn apart by secrets, now slowly healing. Detective Morrison stood at the back, nodding slightly when our eyes met. Ready? Sloane asked, handing me the scissors. I looked at the building that represented everything we'd lost and gained. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. For a moment, my heart raced, but this time the message was different. Your mother would be proud. You chose love over revenge. I showed it to my grandmother, who smiled mysteriously. There are still some secrets worth keeping, she whispered. As the ribbon fell and applause erupted, I felt something settle inside me. The truth hadn't brought my parents back or erased the pain, but it had given us something else. Chance to build something real from the ashes of what was lost. Finn squeezed my hand one last time before letting go. Some endings are really beginnings in disguise. We just have to be brave enough to see them that way.